Hello, hello. Today I'm sharing perspective about mythology. So, thank you for joining me. Let's start by bringing definition to myth. Myths are symbolic stories or narratives that contain traditional knowledge and wisdom. Myths are colored in uniquely by the source culture, but they share common themes. And even though myths are not exact historical accounts, these stories do contain important truths nonetheless. And some of the things that myths contain are psychological and moral perspectives on inner and outer behaviors, and they give perspectives on social dynamics, such as power dynamics. And myths depict relationships between characters, generations, and environment. And these are things that are not so easy to convey in facts. It's something, though, that can be more easily conveyed in stories. And it also depicts relationships between gods, representing the archetypal, so fundamental energies of the universe. Yeah, these are not so easy things to relay in fact form, but they are true nonetheless. So, we can learn from myths about the relationships between forces, the natural forces, and about relationship to each other and to our environment. Yes, and a mythology is then the body of myths belonging to a culture. There's some varied meanings also. So the overarching plot or lore of a fictional work, sometimes also called a mythology. And one definition of mythological contains that it is lacking factual basis or historical validity. To this, I would say that it's technically true, but this alone does not define a myth. So even though it's not historical or factual, there might be other levels of truth, symbolic ways of representing truth that are not literal. So even fantasy contains natural wisdom and insights. So in my opinion, when I notice someone calling something a myth just because it's false or untrue, I feel like it's just something that we've kind of unconsciously gotten used to, this logic only worldview where myths and stories and traditional wisdom has been kind of set aside when we can learn so much from it. So yeah, I just feel like it's not accurate to call something a myth just because it's false or untrue, because that's just an oversimplification of it, of the word. So just because a unicorn isn't a literal historical creature does not mean that it doesn't symbolically represent real deep layers of our existence. And as a symbol, the unicorn is linked to pure vitality and life force. So does that exist, or and it can be represented by this symbol. Or other symbols too, like wind horse. Okay, another example I have is I call abusers of power dragons. But I also want to point out that there are gentle dragons too. And the gentle dragons are very powerful, but they protect nature rather than assert control over. So I have a little bit of a conclusion here at the end. Jung identified symbols as the language of the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind, in its true form, is a friend and counselor of the conscious mind. And symbols and symbolic narratives, so myths or dreams, and even fantasy, can thus be seen as instrumental in bringing us insights from our deeper core nature. In short, myths are ancient or newer symbolical stories containing traditional or intuitive wisdom and can serve as valuable sources of insight. For more content that values the wisdom of myths, you can join the roundtable at the Moment podcast. And I'll link to the playlist of the episodes I personally joined. And you can join the community as well. And there's so much that we can learn from myths. Thank you for listening and see you next time.